right, a very good morning to you. It is good to see you right here on Your World on this Wellness Wednesday. And every single Wednesday, you know what we talk about. We talk about anything and everything wellness. And today we want to take a different turn, okay? And talk about a conversation that we rarely talk about. And this is as far as healthy soils are concerned and how that translates into healthy food and what we put, you know, in our mouth and in our system. And also with the rise of chronic diseases. So what impact does it have? You know, tukona farmers up on set today, they'll tell us wanatumia nini when they're planting, you know, our crops and all those things, and how this contributes to our general well-being as a people. Okay, so it's going to be an amazing conversation. You need to stick around until the end of the show. But even at that, we have a question for you, okay? And the question is very simple. The question says, if you could grow one thing at your home to improve your diet, what would it be and why? If you could grow one thing at home to improve your diet, what would it be and why? Engage with us, you know the drill by now, at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X, and tag me at Lubembe_Winnie. We're live, so that means you can call in. All the farmers who are watching us, well, I call in my hometown, Kitale. All the farmers, call in if you have a question. And of course, the panel here will answer all your questions, okay? But if you also need to contribute and tell us if you could plant one thing or grow one thing, what would it be and why? You know the drill by now. And use our social, not our social, our WhatsApp number, 0112-500-400. So, like we said, stick around until the end of the show. We'll also be going through your feedback. But let me introduce my guests. On my immediate left is Dr. Harun Warui, who's the lead program coordinator, Food Rights and Agroecology. Where? From, is it Heinrich Böll Foundation? Good to see you. Good to have you. Karibu sana. You also said you're a farmer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unagro nini?
I'm a dairy farmer, and I grow different crops.
Oh, interesting.
From an agroecology perspective.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So you have both ways in terms of the dairy, but also
our dairy is
food
regenerative,
crops, right?
It's very regenerative.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes. So very low input, and we maximize on external input without, I mean, we don't do a lot of external input.
All right.
We maximize on circularity.
Hey, hizo terms, we will get to understand them as we continue with the conversation.
We'll make it simple.
Also to simplify it for our audiences as well.
Yeah.
Okay, we also have Faith Okwisa-Okwayo, who's a researcher, chronic diseases, and she's also from Chronic Diseases Society of Africa. Good to see you. Good to have you. How are you doing today?
Morning. Thank you.
And Karibu sana. You know, when I was reading through your profile, I'm like, where? Okay. Hey. It's a lot of things, but you'll simplify it as well. And why this conversation is also important, not just for us, but for our audiences as well. And we also have Njuguna Wangunyu, who is a farmer and co-founder, Elerai Village. Good to see you this morning. Karibu sana. Thank you so much for making the time. Tunafarm nini sasa uko Elerai?
We farm everything.
Everything
from maize to vegetables to fruits.
Yeah.
To animals.
Yeah.
Everything.
All right. But why farming? Like, why is farming so important to you? And how did you even get yourself in there in the first place? So then we'll talk about farm practices, all the way from production, processing, you know, up until tukona chakula on our tables. Yeah, but why farming for you?
Farming for me is natural. I like to say that I am a farmer by birth. I was born by parents who are farmers. I grew in an area that is the Loitoktok region that is so agri-centered. So I've grown around the farms and I've seen a lot of farming around where I live. But more than that, I've seen harmful farming where I live. And that is why I'm not just a farmer. I say I'm a farmer by birth, but I practice agroecology by choice. Okay.
Can we get to understand agroecology in the simplest way possible? You see how people say, explain to me like a 2-year-old. Agroecology. What is it all about, so that even as we continue with the conversation, people understand?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me come in and explain to our viewers that agroecology is a very simple concept. It talks about farming not in a monoculture way, farming whereby we are not talking of sticking to one crop. It's what I'll call a disorganized farming, because when it's disorganized, you have got biodiversity increase, you have got different layers of crops, you have got different types of crops, you have got different practices you are doing. Also the social element of farming, whereby you are not just focused on pumping a lot of external input, just putting fertilizers, using chemicals. It becomes a self-perpetuating system because it's very holistic. Think of a forest, Winnie. Forest, how it looks like. Compare forest and a pure stand of trees. If you look at the richness of plants from below the forest, the middle layer, up the upper layer, also below the soil, it's a very rich environment. That's what we are promoting in agroecology. We are saying that don't go to monoculture system, a practice that just grows one crop.
And then that's it.
That is it.
Yeah.
That system will only survive by a lot of support from outside. But here we want this system to be self-perpetuating, to be self-supportive, and that's what we call resilience.
Okay.
It's a resilient system.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there'll be so many questions in terms of this is what we've grown up knowing. Kama sisi kwetu Kitale, sisi tunapandanga mahindi na tunapanda mahindi. And tumepanda mahindi for a very long time. But over time you see, tunatumia quality in terms of seeds and whatnot. It's like reducing over time. But we're told, but this is what performs very well in our specific region. So when it comes to now the disorganized, way of farming, and so how do we approach that given the regions and the different regions and what does well in the different regions?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This is more of a destructive way of thinking and farming.
Okay.
What we are saying is that don't go to a monoculture, even if you are going to maize. For example, I have a farmer who I really like how she's doing. Her name is Sylvia. Right. We work with her, and I'm sure you have heard about the Sylvia basket. When I visited her farm, what she's doing is that she's doing her maize. Within the same hole, she put the climbers. You know, those beans that climb. You get? Then, when she's planting with compost. She's adding mycorrhiza in the soil. Mycorrhiza is a fungal kind of mixture that is now in the market. She's adding that. Then in between, she plants some other beans. She even does pumpkins in that land. So what that happens, there's a cover crop. Okay. Meaning even weeds
they
will
don't
not
have
dominate.
Space, yeah.
And another thing we are saying is that this thing of clearing your field is like it's shaved. We are trying to avoid that. Let be mixed different crops that will even afford to suppress the weeds. And also now the practices, like we often said, also people are not even doing crop rotation. Year in, year out. Year in, year out. And Elka, maybe you allow me to say what I'm saying. When you do year in, you're just pumping fertilizer. What we call the availability of those nutrients in the soil. All right. Okay. It becomes to very low. Actually, you'll realize, because what we are saying, with those specific crops, we have got specific regimes of fertilizers, spraying regimes for pesticides, maybe insecticides or fungicide. But when you do this kind of mixture and crop practices, intercropping, this companion planting with different crops, then you rotate again next year. You can do a schedule. I'll do potatoes this year, and move on to another crop next year. Not even next year, by season. Also it can go by within the year. So I think the point is that we need to change our mind from what is called conventional farming to what we used to be traditional, which was very sustainable. We need to go back there slowly. Okay, I see that. And you give us all the tidbits in terms of that. So what goes well with what? Because we've seen a lot of people say, if I do, say, beans with sweet potatoes, it's like they're competing for space and for nutrients and for all those things. So what goes well with what? Yeah. But before that, can we speak to Faith, right? So Faith, researcher, chronic diseases. What is it that you've noticed so far? And this is in terms of our lifestyle, what we're eating, and what we're doing as a people to contribute to the increased numbers of chronic diseases that we're seeing across the board.
So I'm really happy with the topic today because agroecology is the only, should I say, holy grail we have left to reversing.
You could say that, yeah.
And preventing chronic illnesses. Why? Because chronic illnesses are 70% attributed to what we eat. So all the diseases that are chronic and even others that are acute start in the gut. The gut contributes to 70% of our immunity, right? So once the soil doesn't have the integrity, and then the soil microbiome is lost through maybe monoculture, like he's saying, and I really agree with what you're saying, then we have very weak nutrients on our plates. And then you see there's a focus on processed food because of the food storage and the food value and the value chains, where you find most of the food on our plates. Almost in every household, I know people have tea and bread for breakfast. Yes. Do we know if that is healthy or not? Because there's a lot of processing going on. And in fact, we are processing food that are cash crops, right? So if we are processing wheat that is genetically modified and is improved to resist pesticides so that it can be healthy, we're already processing food that is weak in nutrients. We've lost the superfoods through preserving our ancient grains, and we've gone into cash cropping. Cash cropping now is leading us to have food systems that are weak, and by the time the food is landing on your plate, it's already pro-inflammatory. So we are introducing a lot of inflammation into our system, and chronic inflammation leads directly into chronic illnesses. And remember, once you have a chronic illness, to name a few, like cancer, diabetes, kidney disease, and even autoimmune diseases like arthritis, by the time it's getting there, it's too late. And because you have to be maintained and controlled with pharmacology, which means you have to depend on medicine to be able to have quality of life. And we don't want it to get there. That's why we are starting from the soil integrity. We are starting with healthy agro business. So once we start there, we translate to healthy food, healthy plates. Even by the time now we are trying to prevent and going to the chronic health, we have an easier way. But in Africa, we've lost so much of our culture and so much of our farming practices and adopted a lot of maybe the
Western way.
Yes. And I'm not saying Western is all bad, because their science might be advanced, and by the time it's trickling down to us, our farmers are not well equipped and well trained, even just in the data aspect, to know the best practices. So by the time now we are doing things secondhand, we are really losing a lot in the transition. So research has to be emphasized. In fact, even end product research in food storage, you find at food storage level is when we are introducing a lot of carcinogenics to our food. We are introducing a lot of preservatives, a lot of microplastics, and that one, when it comes to your plate, you're already handling an inflamed body. Inflamed body is, like doctors will tell you, is tragic, because now you don't take enough omega-3s. Omega-3s is not naturally produced by our body. Mental health is affected by our gut because of the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve that now directs the body to digest food, that connects the brain to the heart, to the stomach, and to everything. So already by the time you're taking those things with aflatoxins, with the pesticides on the food, like let's say the research for KEPHIS, Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, you find the research is saying that 46% of our produce that comes on our plate has some level of traces of pesticides. Be it kale, and everyone says, I must take my greens. So you're taking kale, you're taking capsicum, you're taking the peas, anything green. But already it's landing on your plate with 46% toxins. And those toxins, like some are carcinogenic. Yes. There are some research shows are carcinogenic, and that is directly coming to your stomach. Remember, vegetables are easily digested. So they're already going to your bloodstream with some level of exposure to toxins. Now causing depression, causing the stress function. So you feel you're already debilitated from your plate. That's why this topic is very important.
It's important. Oh my days. You know, Squeezy, when we think about cancers and what one would say, we're not moving enough, we're not exercising enough, we're using the microwave because of cancer. But no, it actually starts from the soil. Okay, now I understand. This is why this topic is very important. Okay, so we'll come back and then understand, because you said a healthy plate. What exactly does a healthy plate look like? Not from what is on there, but what is the content in what is in the plate. Does that make sense? But so as a farmer, okay, can we talk about some of these practices that maybe tumekuwa tukitumia for a very long time and we're still using up until now, that is bringing us problems? Okay, because like you said, farmer by blood, birth. Oh, you said birth. Farmer by birth. Can we talk about some of these practices?
I'll speak to both the practices that we consider unhealthy and unsustainable, and also maybe why we shifted to agroecology. As I said, I come from a region that is very agro practicing. That is the Loitoktok region in Kajiado County. That region produces is about either the first or second biggest producer of tomatoes in this country. And most of those tomatoes are sold regionally. That is in Kampala, here in Nairobi, Mombasa, and in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. About June last year, and let me say I practice agroecology because I consume a lot of agroecology knowledge.
Okay.
And one of the things that we've really been trying to look at is what are farmers using in the farms, and even as we try to ship them to practice agroecology. So last year around June, I decided to do a sampling of 20 of my village farms just around the village. And shockingly, from a very basic rudimental check, in 20 farms, we found that all the 20 farms were found to be using chemicals that are classified as highly hazardous. These are chemicals that have been banned elsewhere in the world, especially in the European countries and in the Americas, but because either they are carcinogenic, either they are causing mental retardation, either they are affecting reproduction health, but they are still allowed here. And they are allowed by the multinationals that have been allowed to trade. So there's a bit of double standard that we cannot so much blame the farmers, because the other thing is that in Kenya, the farmer is not well equipped with knowledge. That is, when I go and buy NPK as a fertilizer, who told me that my land need NPK and what amount of NPK? Did we do any soil tests? Even as the government is investing about 54 billion in the fertilizer subsidies, what informs that subsidies? Have we gone to the land? Is it really that our soil don't have nitrogen? Are we looking at the trace elements that are missing, so that we might be producing, and we'll say we produced 60 million bags of maize, but really what we've produced is air burgers, maize with no nutrients. So that is the reality of agriculture today in Kenya. That is what is happening in farmlands across Kenya.
Yeah. And how concerned then are you as a farmer? Because there's some things that are beyond your control. And for most farmers, again, like you rightly put, most of them do not have the awareness and the knowledge that they need to have. Soil testing, I mean, shamba ni shamba. Shamba yetu tunapatanga mahindi and we need fertilizer. We know, like we've grown up knowing these things. So how concerned are you as a farmer that some of these products find themselves in the country that have been rejected elsewhere, but that is what we are given as farmers to use, and sometimes we don't have any other option?
We are concerned and we have options.
Oh, we have options. It's just that we don't know that we have options.
We are concerned because as farmers, it's our neighbors who, it's ourselves, it's our families, it's our neighbors who are having the cases of increase in cancers and other terminal illness. We are concerned again because it's our soils that are not producing enough. They are not able to produce because we've pumped in a lot of fertilizers in the soil. We've made our soil too acidic. Like where we are, there's a very interesting trend that is happening. There's a lot of new lands opening. And what happens, you find people there farming up to 100 acres for tomatoes.
Okay.
They will pump in a lot of, and these are leased lands, they'll pump in a lot of fertilizer to grow the tomatoes. 5 years down the line, the land will become useless. It can't grow anything. They move into new lands. So what we are doing is that we are reducing on the potential of our land to produce food. We are affecting our own country's capacity to grow food, to grow nutritious food, and even to export. So we are concerned in that we are as a government, as a people, we are investing into agriculture, but we're investing in it without informed knowledge. And the options that are there is that Haron likes to call it agroecology. I'll call it, we just need to go back to the natural way of growing food as it has always been.
Yeah.
And if we go to that natural way, we invest more into that natural way, because currently we are not investing in it.
Okay.
Yet we are still able to produce something.
Yeah.
Just imagine how much we could achieve if we're able to invest. Today we invest in about 3% of our budget into agriculture. Let's invest the other 7% that we said we will invest into agriculture and choose to invest it into agroecology. See what we're able to achieve in the country. Yeah.
All right. So listen, we literally have to go on a break. I do not want to rush you to So what does that traditional way of farming look like, and and all those things, and also the question that we asked, what goes well with what, so that we produce healthy, quality foods, for our people. And also we've talked about carcinogenic, all those things. What exactly are they, just to simplify it for our people, but also on a larger scale, talk about how healthy soils contribute to food security in the country, because just recently we celebrated World Food Safety Day. Mouthful, okay. All right, so on a larger scale, how does it contribute to food security, not just in the country, but regionally, but also across the globe? And if you are a farmer watching us this morning, I know you have so many questions. Now your head is like, Kumbe, and then we're doing all these things wrong. If you have a question, you know the drill by now. Engage with us. We're live. So that means you can call in. You can use our WhatsApp number 0112 500 400, or use our digital platforms. But the question that we're asking you is, if you could grow one thing at home to improve your diet, what would it be and why? We'll also be looking at your feedback after the break. Just stay with us. All right, welcome. I really like the background, the tractor and all those things. Reminds me of Kitale. Now I'm homesick. Philip, hi. But it's so good to see you right here on Your World. I hope that you've learned so much from the first part of the conversation. And it's all about, again, we're looking at various things as far as farming, food, and how it contributes to food safety, because like we said just last week on 7th June, the world marked World Food Safety Day, and the theme was, just to read it to you, science in food safety, science in action. And there are some numbers that are very concerning that I'd want you to think about. So they said 200 diseases are caused by unsafe food, ranging from diarrhea to cancers. We've mentioned a bit about cancers, but we'll also talk about diarrhea. This is all about food handling and all those things. 1,600,000 people get sick due to unsafe food every single day, and this is on average. Every day, 1.6 million people get sick. And then about the whole annual economic burden of foodborne diseases in low and middle income countries. This was actually totaled to around $110 billion. So clearly there's so much that we need to do and understand as far as food safety, but also our soils and our farming practices, and how that contributes to a larger scale as far as food security and safety is concerned. So our guests today, the perfect panel to have this conversation. And like we said, if you have any question, engage with us, give us a call. Our lines are open, or use our WhatsApp number 0112 500 400, or better yet, engage with us on our socials, and that is at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X, and really across all the social media platforms. So just a reminder on the question that we're asking you today, and that is, if you could grow one thing at home to improve your diet, what would it be and why? If you could grow one thing at home to improve your diet, what would it be and why? We look forward to hear what you guys have to say. Like we said, our lines are open. Use our social media platforms as well to engage with us. I can see someone here. This was on Facebook who said they would grow sea moss. Why? Why would you grow sea moss? Okay, and is it even possible to grow sea moss? Yeah, tell us why. Tell us why you'd want to grow sea moss. But so Dr. Harun, can we first of all just understand, before we even talk about what goes well with what, so that it doesn't compete in terms of the nutrients and whatever it is in the soil? You said, first of all, let's understand soil and soil health, and what exactly does that look like?
Thank you so much. Allow me to say that soil health is a diverse phrase that we need to unpack.
Okay.
And when we talk about soil health, we have got three dimensions that all our farmers and practitioners need to understand.
Okay.
That we have got the physical element, we have got the chemistry element,
right,
which talks about the nutritional requirements for your crop, and then we have got the biology, which Faith talked much about, and that's the microbial component of the soil. That's about the soil biology. The challenge that has been there from our, and I talk about secondary, because I remember when I was young, we could put soil in water and we could look at aspects of what will come out. We'll say there's organic matter, you see there is sand, there is clay. We always thought about that. This diminished as we moved on with our studies. And we focus on soil nutrition, on the chemistry. This narrative is somehow skewed because we only think that what crop need is a fertilizer. And fertilizer is the usual NPK. And that is the chemistry that is in the middle. That is not the case. The soil biology is not talked about, and the physics, the physical aspect of the soil is not talked about. The structure of the soil encompasses the physical element of that soil. How do you manipulate that aspect of the soil structure? This will determine its porosity, how much is going to retain water, and how much is going to let the water soak. When you come to the biology, here we are talking about the bacteria, the fungal, that's mycorrhizal element, the protozoans, the worms, name it, in a very simple way that we can all understand. It's very, very, very important because these are the biology has got a very big role in helping the aeration of the soil, because when the worms are able to move around, they're able to make that soil to aerate the soil. Remember here, as we are doing the physical element, we are saying you don't interrupt, you don't do compaction. So you let that soil also aerate as affected by the biology. When you have got the mycorrhizal, the fungal element, the mycelium in that soil, will help also in terms of bioavailability of those, how available are those nutrients, so that, for example, phosphorus, when there's a high level of mycorrhizal, the fungal level, they'll make phosphorus be available to the crop. Because the root, that kind of symbiotic relationship, they are getting starch, the carbs from the roots, from the plant, and then they're helping to translocate, to bring the water, the nutrients are available in that mesh. You see a cobweb? If you dig soil and you see a lot of mycorrhizal growing, that's a very good soil. It's like, because it's life. Soil is not dead. That's what we should all understand. And in a very clear way for us to communicate with our listeners and our viewers, we need to understand soil biology is the engine of our soil. It's not the fertilizer that we have always been told to be adding. So when you have got rich biology in the soil, you will find yourself just putting a little fertilizer if need be, and in most cases, you don't need it. Then also water. If there's water log, it will help to absorb that mesh, will be able to absorb that water, so the water log will not take place. When it's dry, when there's a drought, it will preserve the water, it will help to tap that water and retain it for the crop. So all those three elements is what, just to explain that, that depicts what soil health is. And we need to have that holistic view when you're thinking about soil, and maintain that for posterity in terms of sustainability of our soil.
So speak to that farmer who's at home and watching us. And I know there's a lot of science and biology that goes into it, into understanding soil health, So maybe if I go to my farm and I dig a niapa kidogo and look at the soil, what will inform me that this is healthy soil and this is unhealthy soil?
Very good.
Just by looking at it.
Very good. Very important, the depth of the soil. Your soil should be deep. If you see your soil is compacted, that is not healthy soil. The other thing is the organic matter, which is visible. Look at your soil. How much is it looking compacted? How much is it loose? The looser it is, the better it is, because it has a lot of organic matter. So what we are telling our farmers, ensure that organic matter is rich in your soil. Don't remove your crop when you harvest. Let that stovers stay in that soil. Add more of the manure. Incorporate compost if you can. Incorporate the trash. You see, there before we used to burn after the harvest. Like in your place, Kitale, farmers will just burn the field. That is bad. Because our soils have got very low organic. In fact, our soils have got less than 2%. We're aiming even at 5%. When you're going out to the Mau forest, we used to have we have to have forest. That's where we used to have 5%. Now it's reducing to about 3%, and we are worried because that is the marker that we should always be striving at. How much? Because that shows how rich your soil biology is. That's why you cannot go to those other elements. You will see a lot of worms, you'll have protozoans, you'll have bacteria, you have a lot of fungi. All that works synergistically to improve the resilience of that soil, to withstand different shocks that come from environment. The drought, the floods, you know, all that. That soil is resilient. That soil can do to bounce back and still support that crop in terms of challenges that we'll be facing from external forces.
Wow. Hey, farmers, you don't need fertilizer in some instances. That's very, very profound. Faith. Healthy clade. what exactly does that look like? Because now that we understand what a healthy soil looks like and what then that translates into the crops that we are growing, a healthy plate, and not the proverbial carbohydrates, proteins, and vitamins, and then that's it, right? Yeah. What exactly does it look like?
The easiest analogy I can use is...
Please do, yes.
A healthy plate must have color.
Okay, okay.
A healthy plate must have color. The brighter, the better.
The better.
And then it must have texture.
Okay.
Texture and just different dance between, you know, the texture, the rawness. So half of your plate should not be cooked. Some of it should have color. Okay. So yeah, the more white your plate looks, the more you should be worried.
Yeah.
Yes, and I have a professor, a friend of mine, he's a professor of medicine called Professor Butt. And yes, he told me categorically, without missing words, avoid eating things that look white.
Really?
Avoid flour. Anything that looks white, that is flour, most likely processed from a GMO seed, most likely with so many aflatoxins and pesticides ending up on your plate, and then additives and preservatives. Milk is good and bad.
So what to say? Wait, what?
Depending, because of course we have osteoporosis epidemic rising in some regions, but still those people are taking calcium. So how come that milk is not translating into nutrients into their bodies? We'll talk about the antibiotics and the microbe.
In the milk.
Yes, in the milk that is preventing absorption, causing malabsorption, causing a leaky gut that increases inflammation, that now makes the nutrients less of value, and now your body is defending itself, the immunosuppressants that are in those antibiotics. So let's not even go there. So your plate should have a lot of color, avoid the white foods, and then carbs. Like, let me say, recently, I was looking for purple potatoes. I don't know if any of you has had.
Do we even have that in Kenya?
Yes. I grew up eating purple potatoes, but now I have called the entire Homa Bay. Homa Bay is a county that produces potatoes on a large scale, and I would like them to continue. They should not now go back and now start planting maize and beans because it's popular. So I want us to preserve our biodiversity, like you said, and we still grow what our soil responds to best. Like Mount Kenya should grow those butternuts.
Absolutely.
Grow those yellow potatoes. Let those foods with texture, let the nuts come on your plate. That's how you know a healthy plate in a nutshell.
All right. Color, texture should not be white.
Yes, and the less cooked, the better.
The
more
less
raw
cooked,
food,
the better.
Yes.
Okay. You know, Sisi, tunambiwaga, go back to your roots and eat your traditional vegetables because they're rich in nutrients and all those things. And we do that, but we boil them and we overboil them until they're brown.
And then I would add this. I would prefer you take roasted fatty meat.
Roasted fatty meat.
Yes, like a roasted mbuzi versus taking fries and mandazi. You know why? Fries and mandazi are double tragedy. Number one, they have been dunked in oil. Already, oil, corn oil, already is a pro-inflammatory. Unless you are countering it with a lot of omega-3s, which most of us don't even have the education to know how to go about it. So avoid processed oil, and already that processed oil was packaged in a plastic. So there's so much microplastics that are in that oil. So it's already a danger, and then now you boil it. When you boil it so that you can fry the food, you are increasing the carcinogenic level, you're increasing the inflammatory level. That's the biggest danger on our plate. By the time it's landing in your body is already, the gut is already compromised. And remember, the gut is directly linked to your brain. So the mental issues are there, the depression is there, your kidney is overworking, your liver is working overtime to handle that oil. By the time it's exhausted and there's so much adipose tissue, then it surrenders and the body starts to develop tumors to protect itself. So if you are consistently eating that oil through fried food, mandazi, chips, be it chapati frequently, then you're exposing yourself to a lot of unhealthy food. So uncooked food, boiled food, roasted meat is better.
All right.
And protein is very good. Eat more protein than you eat carbs, just because we don't need too many carbs in a day. In fact, you do not need 3 meals a day. And I don't want to go into the autophagy talk. Like, yes, the system, the school system introduced children to 3 meals a day as a form of entertainment so that kids can go to school. But and you see, we've grown up that way. We are socially engineered to eat 3 times. And now, as you grow, as you become an adult, it's too much food.
And sometimes you're not even hungry, but because we have 3 meals in a day, you just eat because you want to. Wait,
actually, a human body can only be sustained. The most ideal is 1 meal every 36 hours. Everything else is excess, and your body is storing it and using, and then when it's excess, your body now doesn't know what to do with it. Then now it starts storing it as fat, and then the brown and the white fats start leading into inflammation. So, because that is a bit complex and advanced, because you see, most people who have cancer, if they just eliminate acidic food and tomatoes from their diet, you see their remission is faster. So you see there are certain foods that increase the acidity of your body, and your body needs to be maintained at an alkaline level. So even in the farming, we need to avoid, and I like what you said, and I even like what you said, the soil integrity and the acidity of the soil also impacts directly on what's going to our plate. Besides that now, we need to reduce the frequency of eating, because we are exciting our insulin, increasing insulin resistance. Because every time you put food in your mouth, insulin is released. Right? It's a hormone. So that hormonal dysregulation and dysfunction is what is now making our bodies feel sick. Immediately you eat, you feel tired. But when you stay hungry for 24 hours, you're even more energetic, more productive. And by the time you're eating, you start with the raw food. Start with your banana, your avocado. Start with your bright foods. Into and then by the time you're getting to the ugali, you're already full. You don't even need that ugali, honestly. Unless it's milled by not the processed unga. Because, yes, it's commercial and it's easier, but then it's detrimental.
Faith Ngoja. So, we don't need 3 meals in a day.
No, we don't.
Okay, so our body can survive on 1 meal for 36 hours.
Yes, that's without 1 meal and water.
1 meal and water. So this 1 meal, is it to say like in the morning, because you know how you eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a what, and then
that's
like
a big myth. It's a big myth, and I like to debunk it.
And so we're told breakfast, eat.
Take your coffee.
But us, tunakuja sasa tunafanya the reverse. And that is a dinner is when tunakula ugali kilo moja na mboga inatoshana hivi.
Let me bring your attention to the Paleolithic diet. The diet that was before commercialization, before industrialization, before the heavy processing of food. Our lifestyle was for us to go hunt and then come share a meal with the communities in the evening. After a long day, like you could only have maybe water or something energetic or some roots you bite, then you come and eat in the evening. It was not by accident, it was by design, because that's how, and remember, our genome has a history. We have a memory in our bodies of how our forefathers 2,000 years ago, 600 years ago used to eat. So we are really rapidly introducing a lot of variations to our bodies that genetically we are not made for. We are made to just eat 1 meal a day. Hunger is a hormone that can go away if you just delay for 30 minutes.
They say sleep. If you sleep, unamka umeshiba, you're not hungry anymore. So, and also on the frequency, because so essentially what you're saying is we're introducing excesses to the body that it doesn't need.
Yes, and let me give you a hack. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
When you have a flu, like you know, before the flu, you just feel that headache, that fatigue, the fever.
A lot of things that happen.
Can you just try and not eat the day you have a flu? Don't go for your dawa with honey. Don't go for those sugar spikes. Don't even go for anything. When you feel like you're having a flu, don't eat that day. Like you have a flu in the morning, by evening, you won't have that flu anymore.
Brilliant.
The easiest medicine to flu is just don't eat. Starve your body. Your body will go into the stem cells. It will start to regenerate itself. It will renew itself to get rid of the disease naturally.
I promise I'm going to try that. I mean, I rarely get flu, but yes, when I have the flu, so not when it's there, but when unaanza kusikia those things, don't eat. So the body digs deeper into the system.
You see how you visit sick people in the hospital with lunches of boxes of food? Don't.
Faith.
When you are sick, eat less. Eat once a day. Don't eat like he's not eating. No. The more you're not eating, the more the body is renewing itself, because all our problems start in the gut.
In the gut.
Brilliant.
And depending on what you eat, you might have been sick based on how you ate. So if you eliminate that in your body has enough, especially for women, it has enough fat that can take you for 14 days without food. And it will just keep making glucose from the fatty deposits.
Okay.
And energizing yourself, right? So it's not, it's still, I'm a researcher, so it's still under studies.
All right.
But before we know food integrity and knowing which food is good for what, and we need to functionally eat. Eat for what our body needs, not eat to fill our stomach and excite the dopamine. So we're trying to reduce that dopamine dependence. The food addiction is very high.
All right.
And when it comes to food safety now, we need to partner a lot with the agroecologists and the soil experts, because we want to now know from the soil all the way to the plate, what is the food integrity, what is the research, what is the preservation, what is the labeling of this food, for us to know the process the food went through during farming.
Okay. Njuguna, can we start with you to answer that question, and then we'll come back to you. From farming all the way to the fork, okay, and the whole process. Like, what is it, and what roles do you feel as farmers play to ensure that our foods are safe?
One thing that we all agree is that the centrality of food production is the soil.
Okay.
So if we have not, or if we're not able to start from that base, from the correct base at the soil, ultimately it doesn't matter what we do in between. We will end up with food on a plate that is not really food.
Okay.
Because you see, at the soil is where we get these other, forget about the protein and we talk about carbohydrates. Your body needs some elements. You need the zinc in your body, you need the magnesium. Those things are to be found in the soil. Not to be found through an end process that is called, what do they do? Fortification. The right place to find it is in the soil. But when you start it wrong by doing or undertaking activities that one, either make it hard for the plant to absorb the zinc, the boron, the magnesium into the plant and ultimately into the food, then you are beginning to create something that either is not nutritious or is going to hurt someone's health. And we do this as farmers this way. One of the things that has peaked over maybe the last 20 years in this country is what I even see on your background. A very clean farm, most probably sprayed with herbicides. That affects the soil structure, the ability of the soil to absorb the micronutrients. It affects the biology of the soil in terms of the bacteria, because it does not only kill the plant, it kills the bacteria, it destroys the fungi in the soil, which ultimately affect the interaction between the plant and the animal, and ultimately affect what we get. But now, when we choose to adopt systems such as composting, it enhances the soil because it's natural. It's what I would say it's in the soil DNA. It's what soil is as it has been known. It helps now in the absorption of these elements. It helps with the microorganism in the soil that enable the soil and the plant absorb these elements, and ultimately it places at your table a food that we can actually call food and not what I have called airbags. It's actual food.
Okay. So, you know what farmers would say? When people go and buy our produce, wanataka unaona ile nyanya imemetameta, nyanya haina banana safi haina two dots anywhere, what else, skuma ile inakaa hivi kubwa, luscious green. That is what people want. So what does this farmer do? And introduced all this chemicals just to right, and that is in the market. And again, this is we all do this. Ukienda kuchagua nyanya unaenda kutafuta ile inakaa nini, unaacha hizi ziko na spots here and there. So is it
I hear you. And that is the problem with market-driven agriculture. rather than food-driven agriculture.
Yeah.
But even as it may be, it's possible to grow that shiny tomato agroecologically.
Okay.
Today in the market we have, and without mentioning names, we have chemicals that are agroecologically sound, or I don't want to call it organic because organic is very commercial.
Yes.
It focuses so much on the end product rather than the process.
Than the process.
So there's those chemicals that are there that are agroecologically sound, that are enabling us to produce, and I'm speaking as a farmer who has done this, I know those chemicals and I'm using them, and I'm able to grow a shiny apple. I did trials with tomatoes and I'm able to grow a shiny tomato. So it's there.
Okay.
It's just maybe the knowledge gap that is there,
yeah.
but we can grow what the market wants, but we can also do better if that sector is more enabled to be able to produce what the market wants, but without compromising the health of the food.
Because you need a healthy market, like now people who are buying your produce. But if they're not there to buy your produce, then what's gonna happen? Okay, can we take a break? Because hey, this is a lot to process. Let's just take a break, process all this. But when we come back, we'll still also want to focus still on the whole chain, you know, from farming to, you know, all the way to processing up until what we have on our plates and what we can do better. What is it that we can learn from other countries that are doing better, but also not forgetting the question on the different regions and what works best, but also the pressure, because everybody's now tunapanda kahawa to export, tutapanda avocado to export, tutafanya hizo mahindi to export, but then what is left, you know, for us as a people who our country is very rich, you know, from our weather to the things that are available. So what is left for us, okay? So if you are a farmer watching us, na wewe ni ule wa fertilizer, tuweke fertilizer, na ammonia and all those things to our crops. They said you don't necessarily need this, okay? So all your questions, please direct them to us either via call or our WhatsApp number 0112 500 400 or our digital platforms at NTV Kenya across all board, okay? We'll come back to answer your questions and also go through your feedback as well on the question that we're asking, and that is, if you could grow one thing, okay, to improve your diet, what would it be and why? We'll also go through your feedback after the break. Do stay with us. All right, welcome back. We're officially in the second hour of the show on this Wellness Wednesday, where we're looking at from farm to fork, and we're also looking at how our farming practices as people, our farmers in the country, either way contributes or does not contribute to the whole aspect as far as food safety is concerned, but also looking at the various ways that we can make it better. So to be understand about the healthy soil and what it looks like and how that then contributes to food security and food safety. But beyond that, what is it that we can do as a people? And even you who's watching us, na wewe ni wale wa ukienda kwa soko unatafuta tomato zile na meta haina hata nini hata kidogo, or for the bananas, like, and these are the common things that we see and we've had, you know, along the way. But do we still do it, or are we doing it better? Okay, and the question that we're asking you is very simple. If you could grow one thing at home to improve your diet, what would it be and why? There's somebody on Facebook, anaitwa Nani Ngugi, anasema we are what we eat, and it's true. We are what we eat. So are we, even as we eat, even as we source for our foods, even as we source for you know, the produce, are we conscious about the fact that we are what we eat, and what are some of these practices that we do that are detrimental to our health? So it's an amazing conversation that we're having, eye-opening, okay, and especially for the farmers who are watching us this morning. I'm hoping you are learning a lot. But there's the question of the whole, you know, chain and processing. But before that, Faith, so you said is it the less we cook our foods, the better? But also, sis dote, kuna zile zenye you should be well cooked. Yes. Okay? Yes. And then there's some things that people would say, we don't like it. For example, cabbage. Okay? And then there's a lot of stories online where, oh, skule cabbage, oh, kula cabbage, oh, skule hi, kula hi. Like, there's a lot of things that we either don't like, but they are good for our gut. They are good for our health. So how else then can we make it easier to consume, either by the way we're preparing it, or the way we're storing it, or the way we are processing it? And just give us like these little examples of the foods that are readily available in the market, but we're like, those ones, no, we don't like it, so we don't eat it. Yeah.
So I'll start with the cabbage.
Cabbage, yes.
Cabbage is very good for gut microbiome or the gut flora because the same way the soil has the fungus, the microbiomes, the body also does. So there's that crosstalk between the soil and our bodies because we came from soil.
Yeah.
That's the analogy, really. So something like cabbage, you don't have to cook it.
Okay.
You can ferment it. Yes, you can make a sauerkraut.
Yeah.
Yes, you can ferment it or you can make a coleslaw. Yeah, using even milk without the sugar aspect. Yeah, so let's embrace the traditional way of producing food. Fermenting food is the biggest solution I've seen in terms of improving the way our body even responds to the food.
Yeah.
Improving the acidity, improving the absorption, because you don't want to end up with that leaky gut. You don't want to end up with a digestive system that's not functioning, that's not processing food into nutrients, and then the toxins end up slipping into the blood, right? So fermentation is one hack. Another one is pickling the food. Yeah, like storing. You know, the way we process food and we only look at the commercial end, we can also store food in our own little homes by putting it in vinegar, putting it in salty water, and that's another way of preserving food. And I did not say you should not cook food per se. I said consume more of raw food, meaning your plate should have a pawpaw.
Okay.
A pawpaw, and the seeds are good. Yeah, the seeds are good. They help prevent cancer. They help.
Oh, pawpaw seeds.
Yes, the pawpaw seeds are good. The texture, you swallow. You don't chew.
I don't chew it.
Yes.
You swallow it.
So remove the seeds. Leave a few, 3, 4, 10.
Yeah.
For just your detoxification process.
Okay.
Yes. Make sure you have your avocado on the plate. Boil your egg. Eat with avocado. Add cucumber. Make a salad. The celery, just wash it very clean. Put in salty water for texture and for flavor, and eat it. That's a breakfast. Let's debunk the bread and wheat. The bread and wheat theory is really lazy. It's not even rich to have bread on your breakfast table.
Okay.
Or ugali on your dinner table. Instead of ugali, you can put sweet potatoes. You can put the nduma. You can put the butternut. You can put and beans, guys. Beans are starch.
Complex carbs.
Yes, complex carbs. Beans are starch, and we should embrace it. Beans are starch, peanuts are starch. Yes, they have some level of protein, but they are starch.
But it's very little.
Yes. Waru is starch. So when you have waru and rice...
First of all, they are almost white.
Yes, they're almost white. So when you're having waru and rice for your kids for dinner, you forgot to put protein. And yet protein is the bigger good guy.
Yeah.
Because it improves satiety, so you get full faster, so you eat less.
Yeah.
And then it also increases the muscle. Remember, when the muscle memory, like when you're growing older, the reason we are encouraged to go to the gym, and that's a topic for another day, is to improve the muscle memory and the muscle bank so that you prevent sarcopenia. You know those people who walk on the sticks? Is because the muscles are withering. And that muscle memory is what prevents osteoporosis. It prevents a lot of menopause complications in women. So it's very good to have muscle, and whatever helps us build muscle is protein.
Okay.
So it's not a myth to have protein on the plate. It's not a function of affordability. Eggs are good.
Is it like a specific type of protein? Because there's some people who say, I digest, say, plant-based proteins better than animal protein. Others are like, don't take animal proteins instead. Like, it's a lot of...
You know, realize those people who never grew up... Yes, I agree with you. If you didn't grow up eating shrimp, the ocean protein, right? If you eat shrimp at 35, you've never eaten since you're born, you'll have an allergic reaction. So it's because of the body has not been introduced to it, so you might have that adverse effect at first, but immediately you can consult your doctor and confirm if you are really a true allergy or it's just your body responding. And you see, like in Luyaland, where I come from, there's a shortage of kuku kienyeji. When there's a function, we are not finding enough chicken. So why did our parents, our farmers stop farming? And they'll talk about it, right? Why did they stop animal farming? The chicken would give you the produce that will even improve soil integrity, right? And then they will feed off that ecosystem. The biological ecosystem is what even makes the soil richer. So you find those eggs that come from those chicken, the chicken, even however poor a person was, their heritage was the chicken. Nowadays you find someone has less than 10 chickens, 1 chicken, and stolen, and it's crazy.
And now we're embracing the broilers, kuroilers and whatnot. Like,
and remember, those ones have a lot of... Those ones cause a lot of antimicrobial resistance because of the way we farm them quickly.
Yeah.
A chicken is naturally supposed to stay 6 months before even becoming an adult, from my experience with the Kienyeji chicken. So by the time it's 1 year, but the broilers, we rush them 3 months, 6 months, they're ready to be churning them to the market.
Yeah.
So those eggs, I'm just simplifying the protein.
Yeah.
Those eggs that come from that poultry farming are very healthy. An egg is a complete protein. So if you have an egg every day, you have had enough protein for the day. And eggs are not bad.
Yeah.
The cholesterol in the eggs was studied to show, and from research perspective, that's why we should actually have regulations that strengthen food system research and strengthen the collection of data, because there's a lot of myths and a lot of assumptions that happen. Then we need to educate farmers to even empower the communities on the benefits of food. Eggs are very rich in protein, but the good cholesterol. There's something that is good cholesterol. So people are avoiding the eggs, maybe because of the broiler aspect, but the eggs don't have bad cholesterol. Whatever has bad cholesterol is that soda. It's that mandazi. It's that, so if you're avoiding eggs and you're having 4 slices of flour, of bread, zero work. Just eat the eggs, avoid the bread.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, higher. So depends. Okay, depends on whatever it is on your plate. Beans in starch from whence?
Bean starch. So you're having beans and maize, you're having double starch.
Double starch.
Yes, and then
I was also told kales.
chapati.
You can have some aspects of carbohydrate.
Yes.
So someone was saying ukikula ugali na skuma, it's like unakula starch na starch.
Okay, but
so
at least the skuma has fiber.
Okay.
And it has chlorophyll.
All right.
And it has more nutrients.
Okay.
Like things like okra. Okra has some level of calories. Like if you have okra soup, you'll have some 33% calories. So you can just pair it with a light starch or a complex carbohydrate. And why complex? Because the complex carbohydrate does not have the direct blood glucose relationship. It will have to go through the digestive system. The fibers will help filter out the bad starch, and then you'll get it as waste. So then you get to absorb the good things.
Okay. Clearly, there's a lot of awareness that needs to be out. I'm ready to change syllabus, because whatever we were taught in schools and what we're seeing now is like a complete difference, like a very, very big difference.
The science is at its infancy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of science, and the microbiome talk is very new. There's a lot of debunking of things we thought. And remember, the commercialization in the 1970s was to benefit the capitalists who came with the science to improve, improve how we consume processed food. And there was a lot of fallacies. But now we are debunking that as the epidemic of chronic illnesses is growing higher. We are investigating, why did this healthy person get sick? So once we follow backwards, we realize these are the common, and we study the cohorts of people who are eating this, not eating this, then we realize this one is causing more disease. Okay. When we study food better, we realize this is causing more disease. That's why.
And Njuguna as well. So now we're seeing a lot of people, niko na kitchen garden, or ile backyard yako kidogo, you know, you plant, some spinach here, skuma pale, tunyanya pale, vitungu pale. So what is it that, say, you would speak to this person who's like, I mean, instead ya kununua skuma kila siku, neza panda tu yangu kidogo tu hapo just to feed my family, but also do it in a healthy way, because like we said, unhealthy does not begin on how you're handling the food and whatever is on your plate. It's directly from the soil. What is it that you'll tell this person to practice a healthy way of farming so that we do not have some of these, chronic conditions that Faith is talking about?
Great. You speak of kitchen garden, and it's one concept that working in the root of food, we're really trying to implement in our farms around the Loitoktok area. Because as we moved towards the commercialization of farmlands in Kenya and in Africa, one thing that we lost is the food diversity to the farmer. The farmer is the person who has land, he has the water, but he will grow French beans for export and then go to the town center to buy skuma, to buy spinach, to buy tomatoes. Why is that so? That to me is the highest level of agri-colonization, because we are exporting, because when you look at an export, just don't look at French beans, tomatoes,
chilies,
avocados, and so on. You're also exporting our natural resource. There's water used in there. There is a lot of nutrients and minerals that we've exported from our country and taken it out there. Yet, here in this country, the children of the farmers are the ones who are having malnutrition. The farmer is the one who is it's the less insignificant if I will put that food. Why that's so? So we figure out that we might not be able to immediately move the farmers from that commercial concept and get them to plant the millets and the sorghums that we were doing back then.
Yeah, now we don't.
But we can, yes, we can start with that small portions. Because our economy is agri and we have the biggest sector employing people is agriculture. So we can start by having discussions around with farmers to grow those kitchen gardens and make them as diverse as possible. Put in the carrots, put in the spinaches, put in the managu, the terere, the mchicha, all that, put in there. And then now, you don't need to use the agrochemicals that are there. I mean, use to start with, use your compost. Whatever that you clean in the kitchen, just pour it there. The skuma that umetoa hapo kapika tupa hapo, it will rot and it will turn into compost. Then you can, for my case, for example, at Kibana, one of the most functional pesticides for me has been rabbit urine. And all I need to do is keep a few rabbits, 10 or so. And out of that, I'm able to get a pesticide that I'm able to spray to my vegetables and eat vegetables that I can watch that are healthy. And this is a concept that we're trying to encourage farmers to adopt, so that at that level, at that basic level, we can start changing the nutrition composition of the farmer and the children, and that way we can achieve not only food safety, but food sufficiency, because that is food sufficiency goes into what is in the food, what is really the food. And
I have a question on the rabbit urine. Rabbit urine. Wait, so you do what? You use it as?
Use it as a pesticide and as a foliar.
So what do you do? Do you changanya na maji kidogo? Do you add other things?
Yes. And that has worked beyond the kitchen gardens, by the way. We grow about 2,000 apple trees, and they work in. We've done tomato farm, maize farm, about 2 acres. They've worked for fall armyworm. So we mix that with, so of course we mix that with chilies, with muarubaini. You just crush and put the leaves, the crushed leaves, pamoja. You also now do about 4 liters of that rabbit urine with about 10 liters of 12 liters of maji, and then you just pump the same way you pump your pesticide. I posted that on Twitter some time back, and there's a bit of interest. We grew 2 acres of maize without spraying the chemicals that I used to spray fall armyworm, because fall armyworm is one of the biggest problems currently in the maize sector. We are growing apples using such means and other options for fungicide and so on. So it's possible, and the options are there, even beyond the kitchen gardens. And this can even be crafted. I mean, there are now companies that are coming and even making those chemicals to be much finer, much better, where you use only a small amount to produce commercially. So these options are there.
Yeah, because I'm curious. I'm like, ulijua aje, like, you mix this and this and this and this. Is it like trial and error? And this one, ikachoma didi, ikachoma your crops, and then we went back to the draw. Like, how did you come? And then also, so 2 parts to that question, right? So the first one is, like, how did you come to that knowledge, and now you're using it and you're saying it's working and it's working perfectly well? And then number 2, what are some of these other things that are at our disposal that could help us with farming, but we're not using because tumeambiwa nini, fertilizer and pesticides and all those things commercially produced is what we need?
So the beauty of the age we are in is the age of the internet and technology, and you can access any information. You just need to Google out there and see what are the organic options for aphids, for true absolute, and so on. So That is how I figured out. I just went online, then I was able to curate that concoction that I now sprayed into my vegetable. And that concoction now is in a book that the Heinrich Böll have done. There's a farmer's guide that has all those all manner of recipes that can be used to treat different pesticides and different plant diseases. But really, you have to have interest. You have to decide. You have to. You have to be very intentional if you want to shift into agroecology practice, because it's a journey. You will not be able to jump in today and
see the results.
And see the result. Why? Because you're starting from a system that at your land level is already destroyed. So you're starting with repair. For our case, we had to abandon farming for quite a while and just let vegetation grow, clear the vegetation, let everything rot. You begin to reconstruct the soil, intergrow things in between, so that you create the biodiversity of different interactions in your land, because again, you find that there are good pests and bad pests. Whenever we spray a chemical that clears doodles, we clear all doodles, good and bad.
Forgetting that there are others that
there are doodles that feed on the aphids that we want to do away. You'll spray your doodles and destroy the good pest, but your neighbor also does that, is also trying to kill something else. So you create an ecosystem that does not function. And nature in its perfect form function to what Karen said, the forest system. The forest thrives because there's that biodiversity that allows interaction, clears this, allows this to grow, so on. So that is the same thing. You intergrow things. For example, in my farm, between the apples and the vegetables, I grow some crops, because I also keep livestock, or we also keep livestock in the farm. You find crops like Lucerne will attract, because of the nitrogen level, they will attract the aphids and so. Now, I don't have a problem with aphids being on the Lucerne, because I'll care. In fact, they'll end up being protein to my livestock. But as long as the Lucerne is there and it attracts the aphids from the apples and from other veggies, I'm good. So that interaction,
like allow nature to sort of like work
exactly. That is what
the symbiotic way to produce quality food.
Yes, that is what farmers need to realize. It goes beyond just spraying things and growing things.
What else that is equal? Any typical farmer ideally would have that they don't use that is useful to them? Very quickly, like 2 minutes before we go to break.
I posted this last week and it got a lot of interest. Baking soda for fungicide, a quick solution. You don't need to go and buy the highly hazardous fungicides that are out there in the market.
All right, baking soda. Now the question about manure, which I think we might tackle this after the break, Dr. Harut, so there's also a lot of conversation about compost and how do you do that in a way that it's not overpowering to the soil and reintroducing a lot of acidity into the, like a lot of things that now farmers are like, but what to really fertilizer cocoa market, because all those things are a bit complicated. But say in a minute, before we go on a break, the other question that we had asked earlier on, our regions, what works best with what, so that if there's a farmer who's watching us and thinking, okay, instead of just planting maize or growing maize alone, what is it that I can also, grow alongside it?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to, first of all, put that the zonation of this country into what we call agroecological zones is something we need to revisit. Because like you said earlier, I like what James called agri-colonization. It's a terminology that I've never heard, and thanks James for teaching me this today. And I tend to think this was one of the worst kind of zonation that we had in this country. I'm not saying that there are not suitability in terms of crops. This is what we can say, that coffee can grow at this altitude. That one is okay. But this switched our mind, like you asked, that we even forgot what Faith was talking about, our indigenous crops that can do well in those. Let me talk about the central region, the Mount Kenya region, which equates very well with Western Kenya. If there's one community that I really adore and I cherish, is the Western Kenya, where they do a lot of forest garden. You'll go there, you'll find trees, You'll find fruit trees that are tall. Below, in between, you'll find other shrubs. They have herbaceous. They have groundnuts. They have root crops. Have you ever heard in Western Kenya there's hunger?
No,
Even when we are now saying, I want us to be very keen and be very sincere, that you'll never hear Western Kenya, Kakamega and the region, that they are suffering from famine. There's famine, there's hunger in that region. Never. But when this is alarmed, the central province, Mount Kenya, which actually used to be the food basket. So in terms of suitability of crops, I would like us to go back to our roots. For example, in my farm, where I do in Nakuru, I grew virtually all crops. Even I'm doing pineapples.
Interesting.
Yes, I got it from my sister. And they're doing very well. My sister is doing it very well. We are doing groundnuts, which we used to say this is a crop for Western Kenya. No, it's a fallacy. We need to what we call adaptive farming. Change, and like what James said, it has to be, farmers need, we need to have passion as farmers. We need to keep on practicing, experimenting. And we should maintain forest gardens. Like what we are saying, what I was explaining how a forest looks like. Let's utilize every layer. Below ground, above ground, the air.
And the air as
well. So that you have got all that strata well structured. You have got all the crops utilized very well. There you will go and get some sweet potato, you can get yams, you'll get groundnuts from the roots. You'll have some weeds. For example, what James said, there are some weeds that you could, like in my farm, what my wife does, we have got blackjack, you know, what we call mushege in our mother tongue. We have got another we call mungei, mukengeria, you know, all those ones. She will pick and they'll be used in our vegetables. You get? She cooks everything of those kind of vegetables. And they are weeds, so to be called weeds. And also, we also need to define what's a weed.
Yes. Can we do that after the break?
Yes.
Yes. So that we understand. And then, you know, when you're talking about how we spray the pesticides and we kill even the good that they're supposed to help us. So there's so much to cover on the other side. Let me tell you, we are here learning of like, hey, and then, you know, and all those things. So if you have any question, again, when we come back, we'll have like very few minutes before we end the show. So keep forwarding your questions. We'll try and answer them before we end the show. But remember, it's all about understanding food safety, food security. You said food, there's the sustainability, and then there's the... I forgot the term that you used, which is very important. So all these things, how do we contribute? We as a people, from the farmers to we as people, tunaenda kununua, tunasiaga mahindi, tunasema tunataka grade 1, you know, how are we contributing to all those cases? There's so much to come on the other side. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Right, welcome back. Let me tell you, I think we need to have a camera that still rolls behind the scenes, because there's a lot of information that still goes on. The show really continues. When you guys on break, us we're still continuing with the show, okay? And we're in the last few minutes of the show on this Wellness Wednesday, where we're focusing from farm to fork, and we're looking at it in a holistic way, not just what you see when you're going to buy your produce, but also how it is produced and the whole value chain. And there's something that now Dr. Harold is saying, that knowledge value chain, which we'll look at it in a second. But we have a question, and this is on our WhatsApp number 0112 500 400. Let's look at the question. But what we're asking you today is, if you could grow one thing at home to improve your diet, what would it be and why? All right. But as we think about that for a second, can we look at the a question, because I think we have a question for you guys. Someone has it on our WhatsApp number. As we do that, let me read what a lot of you have to say, and this is in regards to what you said, that we can essentially survive on one meal in a day. Hey, mtu amesema hapa, huyu ni Sasha Brave amesema, not me seeing this after taking my lunch at this time, it's 11. Waiting to eat again at around 1 p.m. and then supper. Hey, Faith is shocked. Hi, mwingine anasema, this is Joy Kawira, who says, sometimes I take leftovers early in the morning before tea, and then yes, tea at 10, no lunch until supper. Okay. And then someone here says, this is Mercy Morgan, who says, my first meal is at 11 a.m. and then the next eat at 7 p.m. Better. Brilliant. So no, much better. And then someone here says, This is Oyer Jr., who says, Ata sasaba ijafika na nishafika packed lunch. And then it's the evening. Where? Okay. And then, mwingine anasema, anaitwa wewe mtu mungwana, anajita hivyo on Facebook. Says, na sisi wenye food ni mental, tukipata iko kwa mdomo, ndio tunajua we are still dwelling. So you have to eat to remind yourself that you're alive. And then another person says, Nzisi Nzuki says, so you should only have one. Okay, your body can survive. And then another person says, Julius Maina says, zile hustle wengine wetu tunafanya, hata inafaa tukule mara 5. 5 times. But so this thing about the sedentary lifestyle that we are adopting now, but then again, there's also other people who work in areas where it's very physical. They need, so they'll be like, yeah, because the body needs it. Yeah, we'll come back to address that. Okay, but do we have the question ready? Was it a question or a comment on our WhatsApp? Even as we get that ready, can we speak a little bit on the knowledge value chain? Okay, and what that looks like.
Thank you so much. At the Heinrich Böll Foundation and at the Root to Food Initiative, we have taken this initiative to make sure that we want to inform our farmers, our policymakers, our practitioners, our researchers, and the general public in terms of which steps do we need to have safe food on the table.
Yeah.
And like my colleague Faith and James have mentioned, is that it starts from the soil. So just last year, we launched this document. It is the Soil Atlas that comprehensively talks about all issues of our soil.
All right. Okay.
And facets that can enhance the soil health, what we talked there before. So with this document, we are requesting our viewers to go to the Root to Food Initiative, and you can see there what James has there. That book is the Root to Food Initiative. Please go there and be able to get this book. You get a soft copy. If you want a printed copy, we are very much to provide at no cost. And what we are saying is that you need a healthy soil. We have discussed here what
healthy soil looks like.
So this soil atlas is all about that. We have gone ahead and to be able to identify the toxic chemicals that we're using in our farms. And we have been able to give very sound statistics that are trending. I don't know to the details because I'm here to address the general public. Please, this is a very enlightening document that we have also come up with a policy brief about our toxic chemicals. These are pesticides. Pesticides include herbicides, insecticides, and fungicides. For the wadudus, for the wagonjwas, that's the fungicide, and for killing the kwekwe. That's where we are on there. That's where we are on the herbicides. So in that, what we are saying is that we have that toxic business report based on our empirical research that we did. We have gone ahead. We are saying now we have got a lot of highly hazardous pesticides that are toxic. We have got an alternative, a guide for alternative practices for our farmers. This is a guide that speaks to the farmer, uses the farmer's language. We have got characters that are discussing on how you can do safe practices and how you can use alternative, like James mentioned. And this guide is very small. A farmer can carry it to an agrovet, can go to an extension for clarification. So that is the chain that we are talking about. So we are moving ahead in terms of here we have got Faith, who we can talk more, we can go now on the table, how you can now enter the safe food. And very soon we are launching another document, and be on the look, that is talking about practices that you can use to reduce your pesticide load on the food on the table, to be able to reach out what Faith was talking about. So we are launching that very soon. We are worked with Cohen, the Kenya Organic Agriculture Network organization. We are launching that book very soon. Please, our viewers, be on the lookout so that you can see that that report that we are going to launch. So what I'm saying, that's the value chain we are using. From the soil, and we want to go up to the plate in terms of you can get safe food.
You know, there's something that you said during break. We are like, sister, now it's about maize is the staple food of Kenya. But now you're saying that was not even meant for us as human. Just say it. Camera yako ni gani? This one.
Corn is not the safest food out there, and it's not even meant for human consumption. In fact, apart from energy and the glucose, it doesn't have any nutritional value.
So ugali?
Yes. Ugali makes it even worse because it's processed. At least the one that's not processed, the one that's milled, has a bit of fiber.
Okay. So wale kusema mahindi ya kuchemsha, mahindi ya kuchomwa, mahindi sijui ya nini.
Just apart from energy, it doesn't have any other nutritional value, and it was meant for the cows. And even James was saying here, if you can back me up, cows are getting cancers from extreme consumption of maize and these meals that we keep giving them. So if cows are getting cancer, and I told you, in the natural forest, monkeys are not getting cancer. Studies have shown monkeys, gorillas, which have 98% DNA like us, are not getting cancers, but we are. What is the difference between their food and ours? Imagine. Because they are omnivores, right? It is the food system, it is the processing, it is the pesticides, and even KEFIS and your foundation actually has some studies that show at least 46% of the pesticide end up on our plate, especially in these fast foods like tomatoes and peas and kales and capsicums and the bell peppers. They're ending up on our plate. So now we need to do further research to understand what percentage of this directly links to cancer. And even it's showing 11% of farmers, and my heart breaks, 11% of farmers are getting cancers, especially in Mount Kenya and Kericho, and because of the direct exposure to pesticides and even lack of the protective devices while spraying the crops. Even the throat cancers, the skin cancers, the esophageal cancers, sometimes through inhalation, the eyes. You know, that exposure to pesticide is directly affecting farmers. Now you can imagine the one that ends up on our plate. And remember, we already encourage eat plant-based. Yes, the plant-based is coming at a high risk. There's a lot of exposure. So how do we preserve? And I like what the agroecologists are doing and the research you guys are doing, because it's now going to give us information and access to safe food. So we need to have that documentation of farmers that are having safe practices, best practices, and even how to access their produce. You understand? So that we can have that option in the market, and the education to the consumers, the labeling of food. When those apples come to the supermarket, they're not dressed, they're not labeled. So how do I know this apple is organic, or this apple has safe practices, or this one is commercially produced, so that I have that choice of purchase? And that's why we need to now fight as Chronic Disease Society, plus your foundation, plus the Farmers Association, to understand how do we push policies that protect the consumer. Because the consumer is very innocent in all this.
We actually take what we're given. Because, I mean, you said there are options, but most of the time it's like, we like what we see, the commercialized, aspect of it, that we forget how safe is this food? What is it that we're having on our plate? Do you want to elaborate on the cancers of the cows? Because now I'm concerned. Because I'm from the cows, right?
And the dogs.
And you see, from the cows is where we get milk. It's where we get now the meat and all this other things.
The aflatoxins also.
You see how we've moved from how we moved forward on the dairy sector especially, and the beef is that as land shrinks, we are no longer grazing our livestock in natural grasses as we used to do back then. Today we are doing the silages and other fodder in the farm. The fodder that we have sprayed the chemicals that are carcinogenic to human, that is, if we grow in maize, in the era of fall armyworm, whether we're growing it for human consumption or for silage, we want to spray them with chemicals. And sometimes, because maize might fail, it might not grow to maturity because, again, of other factors such as drought and so on, we even harvest it early and feed it to the cows before the traces in the crop has been denatured. So we end up pushing those traces into the animals. And of course, the animal cells will react. We get cows with colon cancer. That is a reality that we have in today. We have cows with cervix cancer, organ cancer. And if you try to relate, you'll see that there's a correlation which might need a lot of scientific studies. But there's a relation between the period that we have gone into extensive agriculture here in Kenya and the rise of the cancers in the animals. Dogs. Today, our dogs feed on processed food, whatever we eat. And if you go to vets, they'll tell you that there's a very high rise in cancer cases in dogs. And it's most likely because of what we feed the dogs. Yes.
So then, listen, we have very few minutes, like less than 10 minutes before we end the show. And I know now we need to talk about, so then what do we need to do better, to move better? Like, in the next few years, what sort of conversations do we need to have? Conversation about GMOs is just a whole lot. Yeah. We need like 5 hours for that. So maybe we'll have another discussion. But before that, we have, I think, a comment on our WhatsApp number, 0112 500 400. Let's see what this person says. Okay. This person says, oh, please, Baka bring hands. These guys are great indeed. I need them all, like yesterday. I'm listening pretty since you kicked off. Please share their contacts now to pay jobs and consultancies. This week, applying my virgin land, about 4 acres for some undefined purposes now. Clicking and picking best ideas here in Engineer Joseph Kitheka at JQuat. Sorry, I had forgotten this in the introduction bit. It's okay. As well. Okay, we'll share the contacts with you. And also the question of the day. A lot of you, in terms of what, if you could grow, one thing that would improve your diet, what is it that you would and why? Trizaz KE says sukuma wiki and spinach. Inasemaje? Nabesema hivyo. Dave anasema mint. Another one, Joel Mongi anasema inzaka. Inzaka ni nini? Inzaka ni nini?
Weed. Okay, hemp has
maybe it's like a medical purpose. Okay, Helena Jason anasema fruits. Opinja Nyakwara anasema kienyeji vegetables. I love them so much. Leonard Wambu anasema pilipili. Do you farm chilies?
Yes.
You do?
But for the purposes of
export.
Controlling.
Oh,
no,
okay. Pesticide.
Yeah.
Okay. Idrisu Kamal anasema okra. Humble Flora anasema avocado. Lois Chalo anasema apples. Jane Nyaks anasema money. Would you grow money? And then another one, this is Masi Eching anasema chicken. So I don't eat chicken meat or eggs once in a while. And then Sam Anders anasema I love chilies, appetizers. The appetite appetite tunakula lakini usikule 5 meals or like Faith Abeshwambia. Okay, so what is it that we need to do better? And also you guys to answer the question. If you could grow one thing that would improve your diet, what would it be? And we have very few minutes, like less than 5 before we end the show.
I miss groundnuts, where I've come from, so I'll grow groundnuts.
Okay, groundnuts.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, but what is it that we need to do better?
Thank you. As a parting shot, I would like to say that we really need support from the policymakers, our government, from the executive to the legislation, so that we can have policies and laws that support the ban of the double standard. We are so glad for the Business Amended Law 2024 that has introduced the issue of double standard, that any product that is banned from the country of origin cannot be used in Kenya. We want this to be effected and requesting the Ministry of Agriculture to come up with the regulations that are going to affect this law. Also to finish that, to say that we also applaud the Ministry of Agriculture through the CS, who was able to announce that the Ministry of Agriculture is going to ban 50 pesticide products that are highly hazardous to our public population and more of us farmers. We really want to applaud that, but we'd like to know which of these products that the Ministry of Agriculture is going to ban. So please, the CS, help us to know this. We'll be so glad to know about it. So that collaboration between the civil society, the government, and the public need to be strengthened. Let us in the civil society not be seen that we are fighting the government or the industry when we try to propose for the withdrawal or banning of the highly hazardous pesticide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Helen. Faith?
If I was to grow and plant, to be purple potatoes. Ooh. Because, the retinol in it increases cellular renewal, and cellular renewal gets rid of the dead cells quickly and the inflamed cells and the toxins.
All right. Will you share? You grow alafu zikishamea unipe.
Yes. Yeah, but we need to sustain our indigenous food. We need to sustain our food systems and integrity. So what I would recommend is increase research capacity, strengthening our own capacity to have local research, and improve even data collection so that we have more evidence-based solutions to understand specifically what pesticides are harmful, to understand specifically even advising the food people on how to label the food, how to wash the food, how to get rid of the residues, and even how to have proper storage, the cold chain value to decrease wastage without having to put harmful pesticides and storing capacity, so that we improve the food value. So making sure that whatever is ending up on our plates has full safety through integrity.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that. All right, Njuguna.
So for me, I don't know whether I should say what I should grow, but
because
I'm
you're
already growing it. I'm already growing it.
What is that? What is that?
It's a papaya, and I think it's one stereotyped fruit that I think many people should embrace because of the superfood that it is. But having said that, I think one thing that we need to note quite urgently is that we are losing our soil resource. And it is one resource, if we lose, and we are losing it at a quite alarming level, we may not be able to regain it. From where I sit as a farmer, I will not be too much concerned with not having water as I would be concerned with losing the soil resource.
Oh, wow.
And so we must take effort to fund and to finance and to put policies that help shape our soil structures, help preserve our soil health. And that is the only way that we will achieve true food security, true food safety, and I put true because we are growing food that is not food currently.
Absolutely. Oh, wow. Okay. If I was to answer that question, I think I would say carrots. And the reason why I say carrots is because I remember I grew up in West Pokot, and so in our own kadogo kitchen garden at that time, there was a kitchen garden, so would grow carrots, and I remember they were very sweet. Not easy carrots to run kwa supermarket. They were very sweet, and so I think my first memory went to carrot, and of course all the benefits that carrots comes with. So I think that is what I would. Oh, true carrots. I wanted to say organic, and then remember the term organic has been commercialized and all those things, which I think we need to have another conversation on the whole organic versus organic and what it looks like and all those things. But for now, allow us to say goodbye. Thank you so much for staying with us. Thank you so much for contributing to the conversation today. And for those of you who said you will grow. There's someone who said mihogo. This is Livor James. Another person said, I think I read the kienyeji vegetables. People said pilipili, avocado, apples. Oh, Raymond Alaki said they would grow beetroots. Okay, but let's keep the conversation going online on our social media platforms at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on X. But for now, allow us to say special thanks to our guest today, Dr. Harun Faith, as well as Njuguna. And Njuguna, kuna mtu amesema nikusalimie. My friend anaitwa Nelly amesema salimia Njuguna sana. And she will kill me if I do not do it. Yeah. All right. And for all our farmers who are watching this morning, I hope that you've learned so much from today's conversation. And this is not the end of it. We'll still have more of these conversations so that we really improve, food security and food safety, sustainability. I still forget the term that you use. Sufficiency. Yes, in our country and across the region as well. All right. So have yourselves a lovely day ahead. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, right here on Your World. Until then, stay safe. God bless. Goodbye.